Now let's talk listing side. We've been spending a lot of our video time referring to the buy side. And if it were up to me, your first few months, maybe even your first year as a real estate agent, you would exclusively be working with buyers. Now, the reason I say that is I believe that in working with buyers, you get to show a lot of houses, and by viewing a lot of houses, you maybe get more comfortable with understanding the market you're in. The more houses you see, the more knowledge you learn, and that knowledge can help you with listing properties, with finding the right price for said properties. Now, it's not a perfect world, and I'm not in charge, and you very well could have your first client be someone who needs to sell their house. And heck, listings really can drive a market, because when someone needs to sell, they also need to buy. And that's great to have both sides of a transaction, so we can't turn a blind eye to the listing side in our first year, and I get that. So without further ado, we're going to spend a couple videos dedicated to the listing side of this whole business. And it is so important to get good at this. And really, again, I already said it, but I'm going to double down. A lot of experience will come from getting into more houses, from studying your market and all the different properties out there. I'm going to give you some tips and tricks. I'm going to give you some sense of direction, things to work with. But like so many things, it's going to come with some study and some experience. So keep that in mind. Okay, so let's get started here. You have that person come to you and say, I got someone who's needing to list. And just like the buy side, it's really good to do an introduction call. This introduction call serves many purposes. Not only are we going to confirm our listing appointment, which, by the way, different than a buyer consult, a listing consult is going to often take place in the house, the subject house we're going to be looking to list, right? So it's not only just confirming the date of meeting the homeowners at their house, it's also going to be doing some of the recon that we do on the buy side. Very much so, there's some similarities between the buy side and listing side as far as the steps we're talking about. So we give them a call, we introduce ourselves, we confirm the date and time, their address, so we go to the right place. But now it's time to practice some of the connecting steps, that forward finding over the phone if we can. It's time to learn about some of the motivation to why they're listing. It's time to learn about the house itself, and it's time to learn about any hesitations they have. Really quick, surface level, if possible, bits. Because again, over the phone, we're not going to go super deep, but anything we can pull to set ourselves up for the appointment, more power to us. Over the phone, after we confirm everything, how can we stop and say, so tell me about yourselves a little bit. I like to know who it is I'm meeting. Tell me about your world. What can we find out about them that's forward related, their family, occupation, recreation, and dreams? If we can find a connection over the phone, great. Something we can follow up with them about when we meet in person. Maybe we find out they're hunting and fishing types like we are, great. You've already broken the ice over the phone. If we can find something like that, like I've said so many times before, more power to us. Can we get an inkling of the motivation of these people? Let me take a pause to let you know that often the buy side is exciting. It is a positive experience of finding the next home. On the flip side, the listing side could very well have way more emotion tied to it. Let's think about this. The reason people list isn't just to upgrade because of a growing family, which is exciting. It could be needing to downsize because we're getting up there in age. It could mean someone passing on, losing a family member. It could be the separation, the divorce of a couple. It could be, again, just old age, needing to part way with a house that we've lived in for 30 years and had countless memories made in. There is a lot more chances for emotion to be tied to this side of the real estate game. Motivation and understanding that is even so much more crucial because of what type of memories, stress are tied to these houses that people are putting on the market. So as part of that introduction, if we can get any inkling of what's going on, what's driving, what's motivating the sale of this place, again, the better we can prep for the actual appointment. Can we get someone to say, yeah, you know, we just have to get this on the market, and you get a sense of urgency? Try and lean into that a little bit. Make note of that. Why is there urgency? Is it someone with health issues? Is it that they lost their job and can't afford the house anymore? Let's really take our time to learn about the motivation piece. I believe what will set us apart from the competition to win a listing is to truly articulate, understand, repeat back the motivation, the potential pain points of homeowners. It starts with that intro call. What can we pick up on? Now, of course, we're not trying to master or understand the full depths of their motivation, their pain points in the intro call. We're getting recon out, we're getting inklings, little nuggets for us to be prepared. Then we transition to wanting to learn about the house. We've got the address, we should be able to look it up, but let's just make sure we get some criteria from them just in case. Bedroom count, bathroom count, garage stalls, floor plan, location, neighborhood, school district, and then tell us about any updates that have been done since you own the property. Tell us about work you've done to it, and also tell us about any issues that have occurred since you've been in there. It's good to get some of this information from them because we might just get the address and think we can look it up, but they've lived in it so long, there's no online record we can find to answer some of these questions. Really, if you're smart about doing the intro call, you get their address, you type it in on your computer right in front of you, and you find it to know you'll be able to get this information. And if you can't find it, then you know you got to really slow down and ask some of these questions. It's probably the most effective way to do this. Let's learn about the property so we can do the next step before the appointment, which is the comparable market analysis, which I'll be getting into shortly. We'll get this home information, and then one of the things we can ask is how you feel about this listing process. What hesitations, what concerns do you have about working with a realtor like myself? What do you believe your house is worth? Again, that crucial step to get an idea of their headspace as far as working with you, and then also, what do they think they can list for? That can be a major hurdle to overcome, is what they believe their home is worth versus what you actually will find out. So if we can find that out in the intro call, again, we give ourselves time to address these issues in the actual appointment. Recon steps as part of the intro call to give us all the information we need to be prepared. So we've gotten through those steps, we've confirmed the time, and now it's time for us to sit down and do said comparative market analysis. This is us taking their property and finding comparable properties, homes similar to it, to come up with a recommended price we believe they should list for. This is, again, an art form, and this is where I mentioned that there's value in you starting with the buy side and seeing a ton of houses to help you just get an idea of the typical value of a 2-story home in this particular neighborhood with this many bedrooms and bathrooms. That comes with experience, but hopefully I can give you some tips and tricks right now to start working with. What is a great comparable? Here are some of the criteria. Great comparable, number one, it should be a closed property. What do I mean by that? It should be a property that has gotten an accepted offer, gone through all the contingencies, and officially closed and switched hands. That tells us that by it closing, that dollar amount was in fact accurate. The sales price was accurate on a closed property. A pending property, a property in the process, could still run into appraisal issues. So we can't guarantee that what we see in front of us for that pending property's price amount is going to be something we can trust. The same goes for an active listing. Heck, you can list a home for whatever price point you want. It doesn't matter until it's pended and closed. So we can't depend on active properties as a comparable. We got to lean on closed. Those that have proven the dollar amount attached to that closed old listing was in fact an accurate, dependable price we can look at. So we should look at closed properties. We should also be looking for properties that are near the subject property. The closer a comparable is to the subject home, the better. So we should start by trying to find a radius, maybe a quarter mile, half a mile. Again, your market will dictate this. You might be in such a dense population that you only have to go a few blocks to find plenty of comparables. On the flip side, your market might be so scarce that you have to go really far. So it is a little subjective here, depending on your market, but the point is, if you can identify a neighborhood and get as close of comparables within that same neighborhood, the better chance you're going to have a bona fide good comparable. Start close, work your way out if you need to, because the comparables that you currently have in front of you aren't cutting it. So we got closed, we've got the right neighborhood. Now this next one, it has got to be the right style, right? We should not be using two-story properties as comparables for Rambler, Ranch, one-story type properties. If we have a two-story subject home, look for only two-story comparables that have closed and are in that close area, that general neighborhood if possible. Now attached to that, we've got the style of property. We should also be paying attention to the bedroom, bathroom, and garage stall count. Those are some major components when thinking about a comparable. Is a 4-bedroom comparable versus a 2-bedroom? Are there even 2-bedroom houses? Probably not, but comparing those is like apples and oranges. So you want to find 4-bedroom, 2-story homes for your subject property if it is a 4-bedroom, 2-story home. Find 2 bathrooms for a 2-bathroom subject home, 2 stalls, garage stalls for a 2-stall subject home. Try and match those major house criteria as accurately as possible. Now here's the fact of things. You very well might find comparables that just aren't lining up. And something you're going to learn through study is that an extra bathroom will equate to X number of dollars in value. So when you get to a point where really great comparables still have an extra bedroom, an extra bathroom, through study you're going to be able to understand that that extra bathroom is going to probably equate to, $6,000, $7,000 more in value, and that'll help you adapt your comparable analysis. This is something you're able to do in your multiple listing service. There's tutorial videos that you should be watching. I know a lot of this is stuff I can't go into depth with you on, but just be aware. You will get to that point as long as you're helping yourself study and leaning on your team to help you get there. What else do we have here? Well, square footage. Square footage is another important piece of criteria. It is not good to have a comparable that is double the square footage as the subject property. You want comparable homes that are close in square footage range to your subject home. The rule of thumb that we subscribe to is 300 square feet above or below the subject home is a close enough range. Again, these ranges might fluctuate depending on your market, but start with that and see what you get. A home that checks all the boxes, that is 200 square feet larger than the subject home, we would still warrant as a good comparable to lean on. What else do we have here? Well, finally, condition. This one is where you have to go into the photos of listings and really look through them. Look at the photos of the comparable or potential comparable property to have an idea of its condition. Why? Well, congratulations, you found a closed property that's a couple blocks away, that's the same style of home, with the same bedroom, bathroom, garage stall count, similar square footage, but boy, it is considerably more updated than your subject property that's horribly outdated. Just because it's listed at or closed at $300,000 does not mean we say this is a $300,000 home. If this one was considerably more in better condition, considerably more updated than the subject property, obviously we got to take that into account. And again, there is an art form born of studying to know, well, what is the exact dollar difference if 2 identical homes were updated versus left in their old, outdated condition? That'll come with some exposure to your market. But using these metrics, using these components, hopefully you have an idea of where to start pulling some comparables that are quality. Getting good at the comparable market analysis is so important because here's a tip, here's a trick for you. We're going to talk about this in the next video too, by the way, a little bit more in depth. But really, getting a house sold is going to come down to 3 things: price, condition, and marketing. And this comparative market analysis is all about getting the price right in the first place. We're not in the business of telling people what they want to hear. We're in the business of getting good at finding comparables that give us a good estimated value of their house and being honest with people. You're going to find out that someone hopes their home is worth $500,000 and the comparables tell you, well, it's more like $380,000, $390,000. We got to be in the business of being truth tellers. We got to be prepared to show up to that appointment with that mindset of being honest agents. We're not there to sell them to win the listing. We're there to shoot them straight. And hopefully that honest mindset is something that will get us the listing, on top of taking care to learn their story, find their pain point, their motivation, and pour into that. Get ready to be honest. You're not going to be able to find comparables that support what they hope for. Get ready. In the next video, we're going to talk about the listing consult, this listing appointment. We're going to break down the moving parts, the segments of said appointment. In the meantime, work with some of your team members. Find out some upcoming listings that they might be working on. Maybe they have some upcoming appointments. Get those addresses and start practicing doing your own comparative market analysis. What's great is, if you know they're about to do one, you'll be able to do your own and now compare your results with theirs and have conversations with them on how they arrived at that price range. Heck, start finding some properties that are on the market or that closed a few years back even. That's probably a better choice. Find closed properties from a few years ago and now do a market analysis for today's market. What I'm trying to say here is give yourself the properties to do some practice with. And again, lean on your team, lean on other agents to give you some direction, some feedback, to craft some of these tips I've given you in case they need to be catered to your market. So there's your homework. Make it a point to pursue 5 properties. If you can find 5 properties that are due to potentially come on the market with your team, before you're able to see those come on the market, get the address, do a practice, and be ready to compare that with your other agent who's really doing it for the potential client. Good luck to you. I hope this was helpful, and we will see you in the next video to talk about the listing consult.